Hello students, welcome to your channel Savish English Classes. I hope you all are good there. Education is very important, so keep yourselves educated as well as try and educate others. So on this note, let us start our lecture of today, and the poem that I have picked up today is The Spider and the Fly from the book Reverie, which is for the students of 11th as well as 12th standard from ISC board. So this poem, The Spider and the Fly, has been written by Mary Botham Howitt. And this poem is actually a children literature. Now, what is a children literature? Children literature is actually that particular piece of literature which is written for the children. That means it targets the children as readers. It is written for the children. And we can understand that if a piece of literature is written for the children, targeting them as readers, then it must be able to fetch their attention and it must be able to retain their attention. Now, for that, it must possess some characteristics such as didacticism. Now, what is didacticism? Didacticism is actually moral lesson. That means whenever a piece of literature contains some moral lesson, it is called didactic in nature. Or it can be said that it has the element of didacticism. So didacticism simply refers to moral lesson that is contained by a piece of literature. And we know that children being at the age of growing up and developing, they should be getting something to learn as a moral lesson as well. That's why it is ensured in case of children literature that there is an element of didacticism so that the children get to learn something as a moral lesson and that will help them in their lives ahead. And secondly, it should also be able to retain the interest of the students. And for that, it should have animal characters. And that particular story that contains animals as the characters, that is called a fable. So, in that way, we also come to this conclusion that this poem is a fable. And what is fable? Something that has got the animal characters. You know why? Just because children will never be interested in reading a story that has got the characters of Mr. Sharma, Mr. Verma, they will never be interested in reading that. But if a story has got the characters such as rat, cat, donkey, and spider, fly, frog, nightingale, they will surely be interested in reading the story and their interest will also be maintained throughout the story. And this is how they will read it, they will enjoy it, and by the end of it, they will also get to learn something as well. Just because at the same time, it is ensured that the story or the poem should be didactic in nature, it should have some moral lesson besides having animal characters. So, these are certain characteristics or traits that are ensured in children literature so that a writer can easily grab the attention of children. Right, so here also we see that this poem, The Spider and the Fly, being written for the children, targeted readers are children, it is a piece of children literature. It has ensured the characteristics to be present in itself. That means it is a fable, it has got the animals as characters that are metaphorically playing the role of human beings in the society. And secondly, it is also didactic in nature. That means it has got the element of didacticism. That means it has some moral lesson for the students to learn from it that can help them in their lives ahead. Before going ahead, I would like to discuss one more thing here that there is Aesop fables. If you go and Google search, you will find Aesop fables, AESOP. And Aesop fables actually are the fables that had been written by a man named Aesop. And there are very small stories that have got some moral lessons. And all those stories have got the animals as characters. And therefore, they are very entertaining for the children. They go through them. And then it has certainly got some moral lesson for the children to learn as well. So this is for ISC students, that while writing your answer related to this particular poem, you can give the reference of Aesop fables, so as to tell your in your answer that this is something which you can easily find in common with this particular poem that you are answering. And secondly, there's one more poem, The Frog and the Nightingale, that has been written by Vikram Seth, who is a very well known writer of children literature from India, which is a matter of pride for us. So, he had also written such poems. One of them is The Frog and the Nightingale, that you must have read somewhere, I believe. And in that poem also you will see certain characteristics that are common with this poem, that is just being because of being a children literature, just because it is also a part of children literature, it has got the same traits, that is it is didactic in nature, and it has got animals as characters, therefore it is fable. So you can also give the reference of that particular poem, The Frog and the Nightingale by Vikram Seth. I'm telling you this just because in ISC it happens that you tend to gain more marks when you quote your lines, texts from your piece of that literature, that poem or that story, and secondly, when you give the reference of some other piece of literature which has got some common theme or common core idea. So, this is how you will be able to fetch better marks, and for that purpose, I'm giving you this idea that you can quote such references, that is Aesop fables, and then secondly the poem The Frog and the Nightingale, that had been written by Vikram Seth. So here let us now start this poem and go ahead. So we must ensure that this is a piece of children literature and you must mention it in your answer. And you should also mention some traits of children literature, that is didacticism. It is one of the most important traits which you must not forget to write. And even it is a probability that the question can be asked from this poem related to the element of didacticism. So you should know it and you should be able to answer that. And secondly, you must know that it is a fable, and fable is that particular short story which has got the animal characters. And why has it got the animal characters? Just because it has been written for the children, and it is ensured that the attention and the interest of the children are, fetched, and they are maintained throughout the text. So here, go ahead. Let us go ahead. Will you walk into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. It is the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I have many pretty things to show when you are there. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. To ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can never come down again. It is a poem that has got that particular theme which you will find in many Aesop fables. Actually, through this poem, the poet has tried to show you the tendency of human beings to get flattered by the words of their fellow beings, and those words are spoken by their fellow beings not actually to appreciate them but as bait. BAIT, bait. Now it is important for you to understand what is a bait. Bait is actually chara, anything that actually tries to trap you. It attracts you, and once you get attracted towards it, you get trapped as a result. And something that attracts you to trap you consequently is called a bait, or in Hindi we say chara, किसी को फंसाने के लिए, that is called BAIT, bait. So here you will get this lesson from this poem, and which lesson is common in other Aesop fables as well. There are so many other Aesop fables, and you will find the same theme there, that the poet has tried to tell you. It is a human nature or human tendency that we get flattered by the appreciating words, by the praiseworthy, praising words of our fellow beings. For example, If somebody appreciates you or compliments you, not actually for the purpose of complimenting you, but just to take you in his or her confidence and then to make fool of you. And it happens that being gullible, being unable to understand the trick of the person, you get trapped into those flattering words or those appreciating or complimenting words, and as a result, you get trapped. So here also you will see something like that only, and it will remind you of one Aesop fable in which you must have studied in your childhood days, I'm sure, about that story of a crow and the fox, and how the crow had got a piece of bread and it had got it in its beak, and how that fox had been continuously trying to get it from him, from it. And then the fox said ki, you're looking very handsome today, to the crow, and the crow got convinced that actually he was looking very very handsome. And then the fox said that if you're looking so handsome, then I'm sure that your voice must be very beautiful as well, so if you sing a song for me, I will get so happy. And the crow got so convinced and got so flattered by the words of fox that it just started to sing. And as soon as it started to sing, that piece of bread dropped from his mouth and it was picked up by the fox, and the fox ran away with that piece of bread and said that how foolish you were to trust my words. So this is how flattering words are used as a bait to trap people and to make fool of them. In the same manner, here also you will see the same human tendency being taught to the children, that this is something you should try to avoid and learn as a lesson to use in your lives ahead, that whenever there are people around you who try to make fool of you and try to catch you through such words that they take as bait for you, then you should be able to distinguish between the real compliments and the flattering words that are used as bait. So here it happens that there are two characters, the spider and the fly. The spider is actually a villainous character here in this poem, and the fly is an innocent character. So we must understand that the spider is metaphorically representing or standing for all those characters in our society who are villainous in their temperament and who are always trying to fool other people, who are always trying to play some trick or the other on their fellow beings so that they can harm them. And on the other hand, we have got another character, that is Fly, and Fly is metaphorically representing the innocent characters in our society who are gullible, and very often they fall a prey or they become victim to such baits that are put forth by the characters like Spider. So here we see that the spider is trying to convince the fly to make a visit to his parlor so that he can simply feed upon it. And he will try his best in all the possible ways. However, the fly is not getting convinced and is continuously refusing the invitation of the spider. But eventually, what happens? Probably the same, very common human tendency will be applied and used by the spider, and in that he will win, and how the fly could be caught. So let us see this. So the spider is saying this to the fly, that will you walk into my parlor? Will you please come to my parlor? It is the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. It is the most beautiful parlor. Parlor is actually a living room. It is the most beautiful living room that you must not have ever looked into. So if you come to this place, I'm sure you'll enjoy, you will love it. This is how the spider is trying to convince the fly to make a visit to his parlor, to his living room. And then he's saying, the way into my parlor is up a winding stair. That means how you can come to my parlor is by using these stairs, which are winding stairs. Winding is like zigzag stairs. And then he's saying, and I have many pretty things to show when you are there. And when you come there, when you reach there, I have got a number of beautiful things to show you, and you will enjoy yourself. So you please come once. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. But the little fly was not getting convinced, and it was refusing the invitation of the spider, and it was also saying that it is simply, in vain, it is simply useless for you to try to convince me to make a visit to your parlor, because I know it very well that whoever goes to your parlor by using those winding stairs, they never come back. And since I don't want to die, I want to remain alive, I am not going to make a visit to your parlor. So, this is how the fly seems to be even aware of the fact that there's something fishy about the parlor of the spider, and due to which this fly refuses to make a visit to the parlor of the spider. And this is how this first trick that he tried to apply here actually failed. And the fly was not convinced. So, let us see the figures of speech that have been used here in this stanza. Then we will see that in the second line it is the prettiest little parlor. So in this particular line you will see that there is a figure of speech being used. The figure of speech is consonants, just because we see that there is a repetition of consonant letters. Consonant sound letters are being repeated in the neighboring words, not as initial sounds, but in the neighboring words. So when it happens that in the neighboring words, it happens that they are coming even in the mid of the word. So that is called consonants. However, when initially it happens, initial consonant sounds are being repeated, that is called alliteration. But when consonant sounds are being repeated even in the mid of a word and it is common in the neighboring words, it is called consonants. So let us go ahead to another stanza now, that is I'm sure you must be very dear, with soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed? Said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I will snugly tuck you in. Oh, no, no, said the little fly, for I have often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed. So, again here we see that the spider has been continuously trying you with whatever different ways possible. So in the first stanza we see how the spider had tried to offer that invitation, and by telling this to the fly that he had got a lot of beautiful things to show. In the second stanza we see that the spider is again trying to convince the fly to make a visit to his parlor by putting forth the following offers. He's saying that you must be very tired. You must be very, very is tired. And I can understand that you soar up so high, you fly so high, and consequently, you must be getting tired and exhausted. And due to that, I make a request to you that you come to my parlor, my living room, and there you will get a beautiful bed which is very cozy and comfortable, and you can simply have a good rest in that bed. And also will find that there are beautiful curtains around, and the bed sheet is also very fine and thin. So while taking a rest there, you will just enjoy yourself. You will snugly tuck in. I will snugly tuck you in. That means I will provide you a lot of comfort over there. You will feel comfortable and cozy there in that room, in that bed. But then the fly again refused and said that she had heard a story about that parlor, that whoever ever visited that parlor didn't ever come back. So the fly said that whoever goes to your parlor and sleeps upon your bed, that creature continues to sleep forever and doesn't ever come back. And therefore, I am not going to make a visit to your parlor, was the reply of the fly to the spider. Then comes your third stanza, and in the third stanza, again, you will see the spider trying his best way to convince the fly to do the same, that is, to make a visit to his parlor. So he's saying, said the cunning spider to the fly. Cunning is like very chalak, you can say very clever. So here he's saying, dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I have always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all. That's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please do take a slice? Oh, no, no, said the little fly. Kind sir, that cannot be. I have heard that. What's in your pantry and I do not wish to see. Okay, so here you will see that the cunning spider or the clever spider is trying his best to convince the fly to make a visit to his parlor, and for that he is saying, I don't understand what to say to you that you should get convinced and believe me that I am not playing any tricks with you, but I am a very genuine creature and I am genuinely giving you an offer to make a visit to my parlor, and it is for your own sake, for your own benefit. So, he tries to convince the fly by saying all this, and he says, I don't understand what should I do to actually give you this confidence that I really have emotions for you. I have got some feelings for you, and due to that warm affection is like friendly emotions I have got for you, and due to which I have been trying, I have been persuading you to come to my parlor. Let me tell you that also I've got a pantry there. So this is how the spider is telling the fly that he has got a pantry. Pantry is actually a storage, that particular place where food items or edible items are stored. So he's saying that I have got a pantry also there, and it has got a lot of good stuffs for you to eat. And if you come there, then I'm very sure that I have some slice as well to offer to you, and I'm sure you will love them. If you come, I'll give that to you. But then the fly again says the same thing, that she's not able to trust the spider, and she also says that it cannot happen. I am not going to make a visit to your parlor just because I have also heard about your pantry, that this is something unreliable as well, just because whoever goes to your parlor and to your pantry and to your bed, that creature never comes back. And that's why I am not at all interested in seeing your pantry, parlor, or your bed, anything. So, this is how again the fly refused the offer of the spider. And now let us see what else the spider is going to try to convince the fly. Sweet creature, said the spider, you are witty and you are wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. So here comes that very, very important point that we are supposed to take note of, just because we were discussing this only. This is something which we were talking about. This is the human tendency which we were discussing, that we tend to get flattered by the complimenting words, by the words that appreciate us, just to take us in confidence, just as a bait they are played with us, but we actually get deceived. So, this is the message that the poet is trying to convey to the children, just because children are in the stage of developing and growing, and they do not have this idea that all such things happen in the world. So, they will get to learn this lesson from the animal characters that are metaphorically playing the roles of human beings in the society. So, we see here that the villainous spider is saying to that innocent fly, that sweet creature, you are so intelligent, you are so prudent, that means wise, you are so samajhdar. How handsome are your gauzy wings, and your wings are so handsome. Your eyes are so brilliant. Now, these are the words of appreciation or commendation. So here the spider is saying such words that are praising the fly, and by praising the fly, it is trying to convince the fly to make a visit to his parlor. And probably this is his last as well as the most useful weapon in the form of words that he has used to catch the fly right through this bait. So here he continues to say, I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you will step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself. I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you are pleased to say. And bidding you good morning now, I will call another day. So he also says, I have got a mirror there. And if you come to my parlor, then you will get to see yourself there in that mirror. Behold yourself means you will see yourself. And when you see yourself, you yourself will realize how beautiful you are and how genuine my words are when I'm appreciating you. So, this is what the spider is trying to say to the fly. To which the fly replies that, "Thank you, gentle sir, for what you are pleased to say. Thank you so much that you have said such appreciating words for me, and I'm bidding good morning to you for now. However, tomorrow I will make a visit to your place." So, this is how we come to know that the fly eventually got persuaded, got convinced with the words of the spider that were like a weapon, that were like a bait, and he succeeded eventually by using those words that he had used as bait. So it happens then ahead in the next stanza, the spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead." So, as the spider had already got the approval of the fly that it would be making a visit to the parlor of the spider, so he was already making a lot of arrangements for welcoming that fly. So, the spider turned him round about. So, finally, he had actually won and he had actually convinced the fly. So he went into his den. Now, den here is a metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech where it happens that we use something else to represent something else. That means here we are using the word den, which is a house of a lion, just to represent the house of the spider, just because the spider here is as dangerous as the lion in the perspective of the poet. So when we have got some common characteristics, then we use the figure of speech metaphor to represent that particular thing by using the characteristics of one thing. Right? Like here, I told you that the spider and the fly are actually representing the human beings that exist in our society and who have got certain common characteristics like the spider and the fly. And since they have got the common characteristics as some human beings in the society, we have used a spider and the fly as metaphors to represent those human beings in the society. Right? So here also you will see that the poet has used this word den to represent the spider as dangerous as a lion. Since he was ready to make a prey, since he was ready to victimize or feed upon the fly. For well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. He was very well aware of the fact that the fly would surely make a visit now. So he wove a subtle web. So he prepared that subtle is delicate web he prepared in a little corner sly. Sly is secretly he prepared that web so that he could easily catch the fly in that. And set his table ready to dine upon the fly. To dine upon means to have a good dinner upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and he was like, no, he had been walking around just because he was not able to keep patience. He was not able to wait. He wanted the fly to come as soon as possible, to reach as soon as possible, and merrily did sing. And he was so happy, he was enjoying that he had actually won and he could succeed. He could actually succeed in his plan, in his tricks, and therefore he was enjoying himself and celebrating by singing the songs. He was saying, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing." That means come now, come soon. Hither is here, come here soon, the pretty fly, with your pearl and silver wing. I'm all set to feed upon you, right, to eat you up. But then this is something which the fly is not aware of. However, the fly had some idea, and that's why only it had been refusing continuously the offers and the invitation of the spider, but eventually see how the spider successfully convinced the fly to make a visit to his parlor just by using the same human tendency that I told you about. So, your robes are green and purple, there is a crest upon your head. So, he is saying that you're so pretty, your dress is green and purple color combination, and you've got a beautiful tiara or a crown like thing upon your head, which makes you look even prettier. And your eyes are like the diamond bright. So here a figure of speech has been used, which is called simile, because a comparison has been made here with this word like. So whenever a comparison is made by using words like or as, it is called a simile. So here the eyes of the fly has been compared to the brightness of the diamond, right? And by using this word like, so it is a simile. So this spider is saying that your eyes are as I'm sorry, your eyes are as bright as the diamond, but mine are dull as lead. So see, the spider is praising the eyes of the fly, but is saying that his eyes are not at all beautiful, just because he has nothing to do with the beauty, and he is not at all genuinely praising the fly, but he is only concerned with the fly to eat it up, to have a good dinner upon it. So let's go ahead to another stanza and see what happens ahead. Alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, hearing his willy flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head, poor foolish thing. At last up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den within his little parlor, but she never came out again. So, alas, alas is referring to the exclamatory. It is actually an exclamatory word that shows sorrow or sadness. So, sadly, it happens that very soon that silly little fly makes a visit to the parlor of the spider. When she gets to hear the Willy flattering words, Willy is chalak, is clever, is cunning. So, such cleverly used flattering words of the spider were heard by the fly, and then the fly made a visit, came slowly flitting by. Flitting is like continuously and quickly moving without staying or stopping anywhere in the midway. So it continued to move with buzzing wings. Buzzing is a sound which is created by the flies, we know. She hung aloft. Aloft is an adverb which means to be in the air. So it was buzzing and it was buzzing its wings, and it hung in the air, as we know that it flies in the air. So this is how it was getting near and nearer and nearer to that den of the spider. And while actually moving, while flitting, while hanging aloft, it was only under the impression, it was only lost in the thoughts of her beauty. That means it was lost in those words of the spider that he had used as a bait to catch it and to trap it. That means we can very easily see that it was actually trapped. It had actually been taken in, or fooled, or deceived. So we come to this conclusion that the fly was actually a gullible character, or a very innocent. Somebody who can be easily fooled is called gullible. So here we see that it reached the parlor of the spider eventually, while being lost in the thoughts of her beautiful eyes and her green and purple color combination dress. Hue is actually color. Thinking only of her crested head, then how her head was actually looking beautiful as well with that crest upon it. So the poet is saying what a foolish thing it was. So the poet is actually pitying her by saying that it was such a foolish creature to have fallen a prey to the words of the spider. At last up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. That means the cunning spider actually jumped very fast and tried to badly, atrociously catch it so that it shouldn't have escaped or run away. Right? So it made ensure it actually ensured, or it made sure to get the hold of that fly. And he dragged her up his winding stair. And once it had caught it, it brought it dragging up that zigzag stair, which was leading to his parlor, into his dismal den. Dismal is like sorrowful, a dull place where there's a lot of sadness, right? Where there appears to be omen signs. And den, we know why it has been referred to as den, just because it is such a dangerous place. Within his little parlor, actually, the fly had reached, eventually. And as it was already known to us as well as to the fly that if she reached there once, it would never be able to go back from there. So she never came out again. Then, and now, dear little children who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words I pray you never give heed. Unto an evil counselor close heart and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. So these are the last four lines of the poem that is conveying you a great lesson, a moral lesson, and that's why this entire poem can be said to be a perfect example of didacticism, because it is giving you a moral lesson. And the poet here in this line is saying that he is addressing those little children, he is addressing them and saying that if you have read this story now, you must have realized one thing, that there are such people existing in the society who are idle and who always try to uh, you know victimize people through their flattering words, and this is how they try to trap you. So, whenever you find yourself around such people who are trying to take you in, then you never give heed to them. Heed is attention, you never pay attention to them. Evil counselor is like somebody who is like a devil, whose advices are like the advices of a devil. So if there is somebody around you who is actually praising you, but who is not your well-wisher and has got something ill in his heart against you, then you should be able to understand that person. You should be able to distinguish between a genuine person and a villainous person. And to such people whom you come to know that they are not good for you should rather close all your sense organs to them. You should close your heart. Your heart is an organ, but then sense organs like your ears and eyes, everything should close upon them, so that they can never approach you, or they can never succeed in their tricks that they try to play upon you. And you should take this lesson from this particular story of the spider and the fly. And since this poem is eventually a story, whenever a poem is such a poem that narrates a story to you or that tells you a story, that poem is called a ballad. So here, this poem is a ballad. And what kind of a ballad it is? It is a fable, just because it has got the animal characters. And it is a piece of children literature just because it is didactic in nature. So now the story is over, and let us take a quick review of all the stanzas here. So the first stanza was actually here in this poem, all the stanzas were simply the different ways that the spider was trying to take in that fly. In the first stanza, he was simply praising his little parlor by telling the fly that he had even got beautiful things there in that parlor that he could show to the fly, but the fly refused to make a visit to his parlor. In the second stanza, we see that how he had tried to take in the fly by offering this thing to the fly, that he has got a beautiful bed, and where the fly, being tired and exhausted, could have a good rest in that cozy and comfortable bed. And in the third stanza, the spider was trying by saying that he was a genuine character and a genuine person, and who was actually offering such invitations to the fly with a lot of warm affection, that means friendly emotions, but the fly was not able to understand or respect his emotions according to the spider. Then we see that eventually in the next stanza it was that last the trick which was used by the spider, in which he himself was aware to a very large extent that it would turn out to be successful. And also it happened that the trick of the spider turned out to be successful, because it is something which is a kind of a weakness of human beings, and it is there in human beings as their tendency, as their nature, that they do this. So it happened that he praised the fly a lot, and he also offered it to make a visit to his parlor, so that the fly herself could see in the mirror and come to realize how beautiful she is. And to that, actually, the fly got convinced and also made an approval that she would make a visit another day. So it happened in the next stanza that the spider seemed to be very excited while waiting for the fly, and was singing song, and was also appreciating it a lot, and knew very well how to put forth even more complimenting words when it was about to come near, so that it could easily come and it should not be escaping. In another stanza, we see that the fly had eventually got convinced already, and here it made that blunder by entering the den of the spider. And while entering, it was completely lost in its beauty and those flattering words of the spider. But once it reached near, the spider didn't let it go of his hand, and he simply caught it and also dragged it to his dismal den, that is sorrowful place where he was going to eat upon, where he was going to eat that fly. So at as we could easily guess, and we had this idea that the fly, if ever reached this the parlor of the spider, would never come back from there. And it so happened that the fly that reached the parlor of the spider, it never came back out, it never came back from there. Then in the last stanza, that consists of the last four lines, so here we see that the poet has actually addressed the children, and by addressing them he is simply saying this to them, that you should never get flattered by the words of the people who are around you and who are not genuine, who simply say those words just to take you in, just to play the tricks upon you, so that they can trap you, so that they can make use of you, so that they can make fool of you. So you should not be gullible, you should never listen to them, you should rather close your eyes and ears, everything to them, so that you do not pay attention to their words, and remain attentive and remain aware, by being able to distinguish between the right people and the people who are like the spiders in the society. So this is how he gives this message, and I hope you understood the poem. So if you have liked, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.